In this video, I'll be talking about another game from this book, the most instructive chess games ever played. This is game number 16. Yeah, 16. It's called Magnificent Outpost. This game is all about a knight on d5, and if you've watched one of my previous videos, I made another video about a game from this book, and which also featured a knight on d5, a really good outpost. I wanted to do this game as well because it really just is another just great example of how powerful a knight can be on d5, and you know how it's such an important plan in a lot of positions, especially Sicilian positions. So Smyslov is white, and yeah, let's have a look. So the game starts with e4, c5, Sicilian, knight f3, and e6 Sicilian. So we're not sure yet what Sicilian it's going to be. d4 takes, knight f6, threatening e4, knight c3. Now here black's got a few options. There's the 4 knight Sicilian, and this is the pin variation. It's not that popular, but people do play it. But here black chose d6, which is the, I can never say its name, but the Scheveningen. I probably said that wrong, which is quite popular and it's very, very solid. So white played here, bishop e2. I'm not going to go into it, but a really popular response here is g4. This is called the Kerry's attack. The idea is to play quite aggressively and open up the, some files. If you're the type of person that likes to play g4 and move 6, then definitely look into that. But in this game, bishop e2, which is also very good, was played. Now just some development, castle in, knight c6. Eventually black wants to trade this knight. f4, just, trying to control the centre and bring pieces to the Kingside eventually. Queen c7, queen e1. That's just, so the queen can come in it whenever it wants to. Now the knight takes on d4, bishop takes. This is all like quite standard moves, like lots of games have been played like this. So right now, e5, bishop e3. Right now, it's completely equal. Black is fine, white is fine, it's just a game. But here, black makes a mistake, starts to go a bit wrong. So black played bishop e6 here. What black should have done, black should have played either bishop d7 or b6, because let's say they played b6. If white just makes any move, rook d1 for example, the bishop can come here. It's not only keeping an eye on e4, like threatening it, it's also looking at the king side, and most importantly as well, I think, because this is relevant to the game, it's also controlling d5, which is a key square, especially when you've got pawn on d6 and a pawn on e5. This is just such a key square, and that bishop's looking at it. Equally as well, if they'd gone bishop d7, the bishop could also come here. Now bishop e6 does also control d5, but as you can probably see and guess yourself, white can just eliminate that defender of d5. So if you were white, what would you play here? So f5, just kicking the bishop away. Now the bishop probably actually should move back and go there because it's so important to defend d5, and also it's a nice place for the bishop. But, because it's a game and black doesn't want to look like they just wasted a move, so they went bishop c4. Now white's really happy with this trade. White takes the bishop, the queen takes back, and now that's one less defender for d5 because the knight wants to go to d5 here. Now again, if you were white, what would you do here? If you watched one of my previous videos, you might be able to guess this already, or even if you just haven't watched it, you probably could guess. Bishop g5, because this knight is the last sort of controller of d5, and now white can just get rid of it. They can trade it for this bishop, and obviously the knight can't move because this is pinned. So black just goes rook e8, and now white takes the knight, bishop takes back, and the knight hops into d5, and it's so happy there because controls these squares and it cannot be kicked away because white traded black's light squared bishop on c4, as you just saw, and then got rid of the knight. That bishop can't attack the knight because it's dark squared. And yeah, the king side is also open, so white's pieces will just swing into the king side. So here black played bishop d8. It's natural because if, you know, black didn't move the bishop, then white could just take it and mess up black's kingside pawns, and then that would make the attack so much easier. I mean, the computer suggests queen takes c2, which is complicated, and I can understand why black didn't play this, because after rook f2 kicking the queen away, the queen has to stay on this file, by the way, because this knight has got this idea. But even if the queen goes to c6, rook c1, and then now this is just a threat, and this is also in the air. So black played bishop d8. They wanted to keep the bishop. Now white just plays c3, so the queen can't take it. b5, this is just a sort of, black's just trying to find some counterplay on the queen side just to try and mess up the pawns, but it's a bit too late because b3, just kicking the queen away. King h1 after the check. Now the rook's trying to put pressure on that file, but now white's rook comes in, lifts up to f3. One of the benefits of playing f4 in the Sicilian, if you do eventually get to the point where you can put your rook up, it's really good. Now the king moves just to try and avoid like eventual check on that file, but it's not really doing anything. f6, great move. Now this is just opens up the G file. I think my engine says g5 is the best move here. It's still absolutely losing, but at least the G file isn't open. But black takes it. Now the queen comes into h4. In the opening earlier on, the queen moved to e1, and that's with the idea of eventually putting the queen to h4 or g3 at some point. So the queen went to h4, rook g8. Now the knight takes on f6, threatening mate. So black's rook went to g7 to protect it. If the bishop took the knight, then this is just losing as well because this is really strong. So after rook g7, rook g3, similar idea as to what I just showed you, just putting pressure on that rook. And that rook can't take because this is mate. So black's takes on f6 to get rid of the knight. Queen takes back. This is transposes to what I just showed you actually. And now rook g8. White goes rook d1, bringing in the other rook, threatening that pawn. d5. And after takes, and rook takes d5, black resigned because, yeah, it's just hopeless. The queen has got to move, and it's got to move to a square that protects, you know, the back rank, because let's say the queen moved like here, then this would just be mate. And if the queen moved like here, then it would have to, you know, take the rook, and white would just be winning. So yeah, white resigned after rook takes g7, I think. Yeah. So yeah, let's have a think about how black lost that game. So yeah, how did black just end up losing this so badly when they didn't really blunder at all? They didn't lose a piece. They didn't, you know, they didn't make a stupid mistake. They just had the wrong idea, and white just executed it so perfectly. So the mistake, the wrong plan, was bishop e6. As I said, b6 or bishop d7, with the idea of having the bishop on this diagonal, is just, the plan is good, it's fine, and you know, it's completely fine for both sides. It's a game. But really the only mistake of black was, I think, just bishop e6, because it's obvious now, because the bishop just gets traded and that d5 gets weaker for black, and white can just come in and stop the knight from running away. And yeah, as soon as that knight's on d5, it's just positionally won for white. So yeah, all the theory and the moves, they're not as important. The main idea, the main thing you need to take away from this game is how powerful a knight on d5 can be, because it just controls the whole board. And this bishop here is bad because of these pawns, and even if white didn't have that amazing kingside attack, this would be good for white anyway, because this is a backwards pawn. It could be a target for later. And yeah, it's just so important to remember knight on d5. So the lesson from this game is knight on d5, or just a knight outpost in general. But yeah, thank you very much for watching the video, and yeah, hopefully I'll post another one soon. But the main thing to remember from this game, the main lesson, the reason why it's in this book, The Most Instructive Chess Games, is just having a good outpost for a knight and how important that is.